Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Detroit Lions midweek podcast where we answer all of your Detroit Lions questions. My name is Jeremy Reisman. I'm the producer over at Pride of Detroit. You can find me at Detroit Online on Twitter, and with me, as always, the managing editor, the machine, the at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. It's Erik Schlitt.
Hey, buddy.
I beat you to the hey, buddy.
I see you got a couple of days out of semi-vacation, and the world didn't end. So that's awesome.
That's right.
It might be the first time you've gone on a even mild vacation where something dramatic hasn't happened. So maybe you've shaken that curse or whatever it is. I know your traveling is still horrible. Like,
oh yeah, yep. Got delayed again, but yeah, no one needs to hear my gripes about travel. What is this, Twitter? It was nice to get out to Salt Lake for a weekend. But now I'm hunkered in. We're still like a month away from training camp, but like,
oh yeah,
I got out my travel early in the little break here, and now I'm hunkered in, ready to answer your Detroit Lions questions. We're going to talk a little bit about training camp in this week's show, but I don't know if you've taken a look at the questions so far, but there's kind of an overwhelming theme of like doom and gloom to this week's mailbag, and I'm not
favorite.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm really gonna twist the knife. I don't know what I mean. I think some people are still kind of feeling the after effects of Frank's retirement.
Sure.
Maybe some of the outside noise about regression is starting to seep into some of the Lions fans here. But this first segment, at least, is going to be about anxiety. It seems like anxiety that Lions fans might be feeling. And we're going to start right there at center. Swag Kazakage 93 asks, what are the challenges for a center who is over 6'5"? And I think this is obviously a reference to Tate Ratledge, who is listed at 6'6". Although it's probably important to point out that Frank Ragnow was 6'5". So
yeah,
we're splitting hairs a little bit, but
Graham is also 6'6".
Well, there you go.
Right.
But there is something to be said about like height working a little bit against you when you're in the interior of an offensive line.
Yeah, it's uncommon to have a center that is over 6'5". And Ragnow was one of the exceptions. And one of the reasons that Ragnow was, and what you'll find with all centers who are 6'5" or taller, is that you have to be uber athletic in order to accomplish this, because there is it's not just bend. It's the ability to pull. It's the ability to get out and not step on the guard's legs, who's also trying to pass block, and trying to drive in a certain direction. And every 6'5" center that you'll find in the NFL is an uber athlete, and Tate Ratledge is no exception. He is a uber athlete, and so I know there's trepidation because it is uncommon to have very tall centers in the NFL, but your quarterback meets the standard. He's going to be able to see over them, and both Frank and Ratledge Raz is like 9'9" something, like 9'96", 9'93", or whatever. I forget but it's not as concerning for me from a height standpoint because of the athleticism, because you can see it in Tate's game, his ability to, he has a drive ability where he gets low and can power through people. He's not a guy who gets upright too quick. He has a good anchor, good bend, and all those things seem to will translate well to his snaps that he gets at center. With Graham, Graham's not an uber athlete, but he's a good athlete, and and he has loads of experience going back to his freshman year at Michigan, right? And so it is unusual. I'm going to give you that, but the Lions have been rolling with 6'5" centers or 6'5" or taller centers for a while now.
Yeah.
And two regimes consistently have had that height, and you can do it if you got the athleticism and the bend.
So what you're saying is the Lions are not going to trade for Kyler Murray.
No, yeah, that would hurt.
That would be
That
a
would be
problem.
difficult, right? Especially with Manu and like the
Right.
skipper and all those
Yeah.
guys just sitting out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I don't think I have that much of a concern when it comes to height. Like it is going to be different. It is going to be an anomaly, like you were pointing out. But if we're concerned about Tate Ratledge playing center, there's probably about 10 things higher on my concern list than being an inch or two higher than the standard.
hmm
You know, it's to me the mental side is what is critical because I think he can handle all the physical aspects of the job. Like you said, you know, he's got the athleticism, he's got the knee bend, he's got the leverage, he's got the smarts in terms of, you know, knowing how to use that leverage. He's got the power, all that sort of stuff. It's just he is going to do a crash course on like NFL defenses and blitz packages and things like that, and he's going to make a lot of mistakes early. Like he has to. That's part of the learning process. So you know, I get the question, and it's certainly an interesting anomaly that the Lions, like you said, have been
yeah.
working on for the past almost decade. But
Yeah, there was a point at one point in the NFL, Frank was one of only like three centers that were 6'5"
right.
or tall. It was crazy, but I don't know them all now, but it's not as common as you'd think.
All right, next question. We're going to stick with the offensive line here from Dr. Fred Rococo. Asks, what can the Lions do if the interior offensive line struggles without Frank and Zeitler? Would they need to change scheme or potentially use fullback sets to add another blocker?
Well, yeah, I'm sure they do a variety of different things. Fullback, H back, extra tight end. You run if they're succeeding more in zone, you run more zone than gap. If you're succeeding more in gap, you run more gap. Like it, there's a variety of options if they're struggling in one area. And my expectation is that it's not going to be completely smooth, especially early, and that Fraley will have them leaning towards what they do best, right?
Right.
This whole regime is about putting their players in the best positions to um, elevate their where they're successful. And so I would expect the same thing on the interior offensive line. So lots of options.
Yeah, and I think that's like you're going to want to try to get all those kinks out in training camp, right?
Of course. Of course.
You don't want to necessarily, you know, change things while the plane is in the air, so to speak. You want to figure out what you do best, who's doing it best, things like that. But I mean, also don't discount benching players. Like they don't do it that often, but if there's struggles, maybe they go to Coyote Awashika and say, "Hey, you know, you've been around, you're a veteran, we trust you a little bit more." Maybe they say like, "Hey, Tate Ratledge, maybe we put a pin on this center stuff in your rookie year. You go play guard, or maybe even bench." Like this team has shown it can be incredibly patient with their draft picks to a point where if Tate Ratledge was a huge liability out there, I would not put it against them to bench him. I don't think any of that's going to happen, but the question is asking
Right.
if they're struggling. And in the same vein, like they know some struggles are going to come. They're going to give Tate Ratledge a longer leash because, especially if he's playing center, because they know this is part of the process. But if like we're bleeding into October and November and things are still not working, they're going to do what they need to win football games because Super Bowl remains the goal here. They're not going to sacrifice immediate goals for long-term gains necessarily in this case when it means losing football games you should be winning, which means potentially missing out on the playoffs. They're going to do everything they can to make the playoffs this year. All right. Let's push the offensive line aside here. Actually, sorry, we got one more. From Comeback Trapper, asks, given the new landscape of uncertainty in the interior offensive line, what are the odds of a Jared Goff setback year, a la 2020 with the Rams? What do you think Dan Campbell does? Does he ride it out, or does he go to Hendon Hooker for some portion of the snaps? This is what I'm talking about with the doom and gloom here. Like,
Sure.
I promise we'll move past this if this line of questioning is annoying the audience. I'm sorry.
No, but that's what we're here for. We're here to put the sunshine in
Back in your
this
lives.
doom and gloom. Yeah, absolutely. I do think that there's always an option for regression from any player,
Sure.
and Goff's no exception. And I understand the trepidation of people saying, well, if the interior offensive line struggles and he gets pressure, he historically hasn't done well with pressure. And so what if he does have a setback? I have zero doubts that Dan Campbell sticks with Jared Goff. I don't think he would turn to Hendon Hooker. I don't think Hendon is at a place where they would feel comfortable turning to him, voluntarily handing the keys over to him, unless Hendon shows some remarkable progression in camp. Then this is Jared Goff's team. The offensive system is designed for him. The scheme is set up to make him successful. There's a familiarization. There's contractual obligations that you've given to him. Like, there's a lot of things that they've done where they're married to Goff for 2 years. Next 2 years, they are married to Jared Goff as their quarterback. Especially from a cap standpoint.
Right.
2 years, they can't do a whole lot about it, and so I don't think they're going to be quick to pull the trigger on him. It would go against what Dan Campbell has said and their confidence in him, and it would to pull the plug on him to go to a quarterback that is a little, still in the developmental stages. I think is where we last saw him, in Hendon. That would be very surprising. It would go against the merit-based philosophy that they have. So, is it possible he regresses? Sure. If X, Y, and Z things happen, yeah, it's possible. But I don't think they're even entertaining getting the hook out for Jared Goff anytime soon.
Yeah, I think the only way that Hendon Hooker gets a lot of playing time in 2025, there's three ways. One is injury. One is the Lions are eliminated from the playoffs early, and there's 3 worthless games or whatever left on the schedule. Obviously, that one feels highly unlikely. Or the opposite, where the Lions lock up everything a week or two early. Then you get Hendon Hooker time. Other than that, Hendon Hooker is there to have a headset on the sidelines, and that's about it. There's always a chance that, we had a Matthew Stafford game or two where he got pulled in the game because he was struggling, and there was that game overseas or he got pulled. But you have to think about some of the bad games that Jared Goff has had here. The Texans game, he threw 5 interceptions that game? They ended up winning it, obviously, and they stuck with him the entire time, is my point. They're going to stick through that guy through thick and thin, and for good reason. One of the defining characteristics that they continually talk about is his resiliency, is how much he's gone through the tough times, is how much he's struggled in games, struggled in seasons, and come out the other end with his head held high. And so even if things go south this season, and like you said, that is certainly a possibility. It is certainly a possibility that the offensive line hurts him. Certainly a possibility that doesn't click as well with John Morton than he did in Ben Johnson. Those are possibilities. Do I think any of those things are going to happen? Probably not, but they could. And if they do, the Lions regress to middle of the pack offense. Maybe they turn the ball over a little bit more than they have in the past, and maybe you could even consider them, bottom 12 offense. Again, don't think it's going to happen, but I'm not going to count it out as a possibility just because weird things happen in the NFL. When you have a lot of change, you never know what it's going to look like on the other end. But no matter what, the Lions are going to see it through with Jared Goff because they trust that he will eventually figure it out, because guess what has happened his entire career? He's figured it out. And I think they are not going to lose that bit of faith in him, especially considering all of the turbulence that they've gone through this offseason, right? Like, they'll say, they'll not necessarily use it as an excuse, but like, it's going to be important context to a step back is, okay, well, he's not used to his offensive line. Okay, he's not used to this offensive coordinator. Let's give it time instead of pull the plug on it. All right, next question here. From Alex Page, our good friend Kick Puncher asks, don't want to sound negative, but can't think of another way to ask. Can you identify any position group that is objectively better than last season? Defensive tackle, cornerback maybe? Not regarding player growth, but actual personnel changes.
I think the hard part about player development or excluding player development or player progression,
Yeah.
is that that's how a lot of teams are expecting to build, right? And the Lions have invested in that. And so they've elected to build through their youth, and they're in coaching up younger players and adding more youth for depth, and then as opposed to going into free agency. And so objectively, it is a bit challenging to look on paper and be like this and this and this. Now, if we really want to extrapolate things out and look at where they are from a depth perspective, I bet we could argue a lot of the positions are better. But it's hard to measure that when we're excluding the main reason, the main way they're trying to get better, right? Yeah. Okay, but just from purely, just for academic purposes, let's exclude it. Is the first thing you have to ask, so if you're looking at quarterback, you have to ask, is Kyle Allen better than oh God, who was it? I'm even blanking on his name. Than Jake Fromm.
Jake Fromm.
So is your QB3 on the practice squad better than your new QB3, who's probably going to be on the practice squad? If you think he is, well, then your quarterback group is slightly better. But basically, it's a push, and most positions are going to be a push. Right. Running back's going to be a push, in a lot of ways, and that's it's the same 4 guys they're going to bring back. Wide receivers arguably better. They added 4 guys, right? Yeah. They returned it pretty much their top 4 guys, and then added another 4 guys, two rookies, 2 undrafted. So wide receiver looks considerably deeper, right?
Sure.
Tight end. If your boy is better, beats out Zylstra, then they're better at tight end, even though it's tight end 3, and that's the hard part.
Your boy better than James? Why can't I think of his last name? Mitchell. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they think he is because they let Mitchell walk, and they brought in Yeboah. So again, I do think the team it got better, but it got better in ways that are hardly ring the dinner bell. Right. Look at all this exciting things we did. They got better QB3. They got better at wide receiver 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They got better at tight end 3, maybe tight end 3, maybe just tight end 4. And it's like that kind of throughout the roster. And that's because they retained such a good base of players that they really only tried to you're talking about, is Reed better than Carlton Davis?
Right.
Is the only position that they really added at and didn't do like a 1-for-1 is defensive tackle, where they added 2 without losing. And so defensive tackle is certainly better. Wide receiver looks certainly better. But most of the other positions, it's kind of like a push, and if they did get better, it's at the very, very bottom of that depth chart that position.
It's your Grant Stewart additions. It's your Roy Lopez's.
Is Grant Stewart better than X? Right.
Jalen Reeves,
essentially. I mean, that's probably where he's going to end up being. And so that's the question. And again, this is just the on paper parts.
Right.
This is not even including what the next steps we're hoping from half of the roster.
Right. Year 2, year 3 guys.
As well. Right.
Which that's clearly the plan of this franchise, is to get better that way. And I don't think, Kick Puncher is necessarily assuming that's not going to happen or discounting any of that. It's just, I think in the offseason, we've become accustomed to seeing growth, even with this regime, right? We've become accustomed to seeing these offseason additions, whether they're through the draft or free agency, to get to where they are today. But you get to a certain point at your roster, the improvements can only be incremental. You'd love to have all pros at every spot on the team, but that's just not physically possible. It's not feasible with a salary cap. It's not feasible with a limited amount of draft picks. And so it's less exciting, and I feel like it's why it's been a pretty quiet offseason.
Yeah.
Overall, we're just kind of sitting our hands, and maybe this is why we have these idle hands, and so now we're talking about, oh my God, are they going to bench Jared Goff? Oh my God, or what's going to happen in center and not I get it. But I don't know. Like, I think there's also something to be said about retention, right? Something to be said about being able to keep your own guys. You remember hearing about Brad Holmes and how excited he was to get Levi Onwuzurike back because he thought he was long gone. And just being able to do that is a success in and of itself. And I know, long-toothed Lions fans might think back to, what was it, it's either 2012 or 2015, where they had a really good season, and then they just kind of retained players the next year. They didn't get significantly better, and then things started to fall apart. But considering this has been like a slow rise, and most of their improvements that they've made have been through the draft and are going to stay through the draft, I don't think something like that is going to happen.
So let me sidetrack just for a second.
Okay.
Because you brought up retention, and I've actually been trying to find a little bit of research on retention, and I found a study on the NFL going back from 2020, and what they uncovered was that the average NFL team is able to retain from like draft picks, like guys that they drafted and have been cultivating. Most of the teams have 23.4 of their draft picks on their roster. Okay. And the top teams at the time there were two teams at the top had 33. Those were the top teams at the time.
33.
Lowest teams out of 90, I think it was.
Okay.
And then, so it doesn't count undrafted, just drafted. The lowest ones were teams were rebuilding. They had like 13. So lower level guys, right? But if you count rookies that were on their second contract, that number drops down to where it's like 9 or 10. Those were like the top ones, right?
Yeah.
So I look at Detroit, and Detroit, with Frank Ragnow retiring because he wasn't originally drafted, the Lions are right now at 31. So they would be near the high end team, and their players that had got a second contract was 9 with Frank. Now it's down to 8. So again, they're kind of near the upper echelon of what teams do. And so what this study kind of illustrated was that the teams that have these numbers that are above the 23.4 average, that are nearing that like 30 mark of draft picks, and then at the around 8, 9, 10 mark with the second contract rookies, those are the teams that tend to find more success, that tend to reach the postseason more. And that's kind of where the Lions are. And so I haven't been able to get updated data, and I haven't been able to find out what this year's, crop of teams look like with their retention. But I went down the rabbit hole this one day and found this study, and it's kind of interesting. And I think it speaks to where the Lions are at. They're at this, I think they're nearing, the top of this, this ideology where they have this large amount of guys that they've cultivated, retained, and they're working on re-signing, and then hopefully it leads to this more sustained success. I think that's what they're trying to accomplish.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to push the negativity, we're going to push the skepticism aside. We're going to talk a little bit about training camp and some other things facing the Detroit Lions when we come back here on the Midweek Mailbag. We'll be right back. All right.
Hey, give me 1 second, okay? I'll be right back.
Absolutely. While he's gone, I'll read off some alerts, and we'll just hang out, chat. We'll answer some of your guys' questions, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube. YouTube's been a little quiet today, which is fine. But I'd like to hear from you guys, too. All right, Das Gib, thank you for the 44 months subscribed on Twitch. Dan Pask, 48 months, that's 4 years, says, in Old Navy with my son who needs new clothes. Thank you, POD. Hey, don't let us interrupt too much of your sun time. I used to shop at Old Navy, and I love Old Navy. I haven't been there in a while, though. Phenoms, wow, 17 months says, let's go POD. Quick question. Do you think Brad Holmes, actually, let me save that. It's a good question. I'm going to save it for when Eric gets here. Don't let me forget Phenoms if you're still here. Captain James Kirk, 48 months says 4 years. Let's go. Seems like a lot of you coming up on about 4 years that have been hanging out with us for a while. Bazooka Fanatic, thank you for the follow. Captain James Kirk 2-bit says, come on, Eric. Why didn't the 15-2 team make a bunch of splashy moves to get better? I get the sense of the question though. Asia, thank you for the 7-month subscribe to the chat. J-Dubs, I do not have Zazu with me. I am actually currently watching Alex Reno's dogs, but I took a 2-hour break to jump home and do this podcast, and I'm going to jump back and watch them overnight tonight. I made sure they went on a big long walk right before I left, so they're going to just be sleeping the whole time. So I'm going to refund your channel point redemption. I thought about bringing him just so he could be home for a little bit, but he didn't need that. Yeah, Detroit, 70 months. 70 months. I think, yeah, Detroit has the longest sub of anyone. 70 months, which is, how do I do that math? Almost 6 years? Whew. That's crazy. 100 bits from Nick the Greek says, how many channel points to get Jeremy to tattoo Eric's smiling face on the small side of his back?
Oh,
what?
3 million.
Something like that. What's the small side of your back? Is that the lower back? I don't know what that means.
You'll have to ask Nick. Nick has one of me and his lower is the small side of his back. So
you'll have to give me your entire law firm. That's it. Tramp stamp. Not getting a tramp stamp. All right, we're caught up on alerts. Phenoms Wow had a question that I wanted to save until you got back. Oh, and Madi 2 Hottie came in here and said, for 43 months, subscribed, says 111 days until the NHL starts back up. I guess the Hall of Fame game can't consume enough. Yeah, that I did not enjoy the NHL finals. Not to get too much into it, but don't really love the Florida Panthers. Don't really love that they basically jumped out to a lead in all 6 games. And then it was just a matter of like, hey, can the Oilers play well for 5 minutes and maybe make it a game? Not last night, they couldn't. Phenoms Wow. Quick question. Do you think Brad Holmes drafts great players, or do you think he drafts players that he believes Dan Campbell can make great? Lions have drafted so many guys who have switched positions or roles, and it works out more often than not.
Oh, I certainly think there's a formula to the players that they acquire, and part of that formula is getting guys that Dan can work with.
Sure.
Yeah, I certainly think that's part of it. They have a formula that they prefer when it comes to things that they don't want to bend on, like character, love of the game, versatility. But then there's also has to be buy-in between the GM and the coach on players as well. And you see it whenever we get to see any of these behind-the-scenes videos, which should be coming this year, right? But whenever we get to see those videos, it's always them in lockstep. So I do think that that's a huge portion. Getting Campbell is a huge portion. Can you hear my kids screaming in the background?
A little bit. When you were gone, I could hear them a little bit.
Okay. They have been inside all day because of the rain.
Yeah.
And the little one is been trying to hang with the big kids. At nighttime, in the morning, and she's got big FOMO, so she's staying up late and waking up early, and she's getting wore out. The school's been out about a week, and so she's at her limits. Yeah. And then she didn't get to go swimming, and so she is just. I'm trying to calm her down. I went and got her some stuff, but yeah, she's very tired.
Let me go back to Phenom's question, because what I I find interesting is like it's the moving positions thing where
Yes.
I don't know, like when he said that, I'm like, has that actually worked out more often than not? And
Branch.
it's worked out with Branch. It's worked out with Derek Barnes.
Mm-hmm.
Aleem, kind of. I guess, yeah, I would count Aleem, right? He was nose tackle.
Yeah, it was a nose.
That was 3.
A very clear nose.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, I mean, beyond that, it's tough, right? And
versatility is the key.
Right.
I mean, look, Sewell went from left to right. Like, that's
True.
a big switch, too. Versatility and the ability to play multiple positions and do multiple things, I think, is the massive cog. So it's the, if I need to move them, can I?
Right.
And they love that flexibility, that
Right.
ability to play multiple things at high levels. And so while they haven't had to move, like look at Rakestraw. Like they tried him at nickel. The rumors are they were planning on starting him right at one point last season.
Yep.
And then now they're back on the outside. Sorsdal, they moved into guard. Now they're like, oh no, we're going to stick you back outside. Right. So they've tried different guys and they've moved some of them successfully. I just think it's just another key. Another like key element to what they look for in players.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll see, like there's some guys that are out there, like Vaki is kind of the most notable one where like we're still in wait and see mode. I know you're very excited to see.
We're doing our previews. Right? And I usually take a guy or two before I get to my training camp preview. A 13-part training camp preview that like 12 people read.
And that's going to have to start in like a week.
I know. But I picked Vaki for the roster preview. And I have a year's worth of quotes that I haven't used yet. And so I'm like,
when you talk to Vaki yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. All culminating for this moment.
It might be 3,000 words. No apologies. But on
RB3, there's nothing more Erik Schlitt than writing 3,000 words.
He might be RB4.
He might be.
But he might be RB3 this year, which is the fun part. Now, the funny thing is we have this in our setup that we have. We have like you're supposed to talk about what their role, what were their expectations, what was their role, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
And in that we have stats and PFF grades and stuff like that. My stats, just because he did so many things, is not just like one line like everyone else's. It's 2 full lines because he has rushing attempts, receiving
he played
attempts.
Like 24 snaps on offense.
I know. He has tackles, forced fumbles, and he has kick returns. He has stats everywhere. Listen, 14 rushing yards on 6 attempts, 3 receptions on 3 targets, 37 yards, 2 first down conversions, 8 tackles, a forced fumble, and 2 kick returns for 55 yards. Like he's RB4, but he has so many different stats, like you can't even fit him in like one line because he's such a unique player. By the way, did you know what his PFF special teams grade was? I don't know if we've ever really talked about
it. It was pretty
this.
high. It was highest on the team, right?
Yes.
It was in the 80s?
On the team. No.
Oh.
It was 90.5.
Oh.
That was 7th best out of 580 qualified players with at least 100 snaps on special teams.
Let me ask you a question.
Vaki had 332. So, go ahead.
What do you think Dave Phipp thinks of that?
Oh, I don't think he cares. But I think he knows. I think he knows. So, yes. My Vaki article, I thought, I'll just add some quotes in, make a little fun little piece, and now it's like, I forgot his special team score was 7th best in the league. I forgot that it was, So it's gonna take me a few days to get through Vaki.
if you haven't, I don't even know if you can find it anywhere. I mean, you could go back and look at all of his press conferences from last year, but him talking about PFF grades, Dave Phipp, when it comes to special teams, was one of the funniest things ever. Because he was like, yeah, they had the highest guy rated on our team. I wanted him off special teams. He was terrible. And then he left just enough hints about who it was that everyone in the media room was pretty sure who they figured out who it was. And I'm not going to say because one, we're not 100% sure and I don't want to bury a guy, but I even think he said at some point during that spiel that yeah, he's occasionally on TV talking about football. And so he really cut down the amount of people to look inside. And I don't know. It's just very funny. We'll talk a little bit about Inside the Den. Right, I included that question? I think I did. Maybe I didn't.
Caitlin, I don't know if the players know that I'm obsessed with them, but all the players that I'm obsessed with do follow me on Twitter. So it's very likely they do.
Maybe they started by following you.
No. They usually follow me after I've got to know them a little bit longer. But
I want to know how many people in chat know your obsessions. Who are the? I want chat to say right now, who are the guys that Erik has absolutely been in love with over the years? Because 5 come to mind immediately for me.
5.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you think it's more or less?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure it's more, but I love a good story. Branch, yes.
Branch, Chase Lucas, yep. Baki,
Aaron Rodgers, Sewell, yes.
All Texas
routes, yes.
There's one in my mind that isn't there yet. And maybe you would even you wouldn't disagree with it. He's maybe one of the few who is not, outside of Chase, that hasn't really worked out.
Uh-oh.
He's still on the team, though.
Well, then he worked out.
He's only entering year 3. And you've already mentioned him.
Oh, I did already?
Mm-hmm. Not right now, but earlier in this podcast. Chad Henne. I don't think you had a Chad Henne. No.
Who did I say?
I think Colby.
Oh, yeah. I like Colby as a person. Colby's great.
Yeah.
There was a question about Colby. I don't think I addressed it, though. But yes. Yeah, Colby, I think, is one of the most fun personalities on the team.
For sure.
I really, really want him to do well. It's a little different. I like Colby in the same way I like Chase. I like the people that they are.
Right.
Do you remember Kevin Strong?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had a big. That's
right.
One.
He was your UDFA to watch, and he stuck around for a little bit, and I think he's still hanging around, right?
Oh yeah, he's still in the league. Yeah, he's with I think the Rams, right? Or was with the Rams last year.
Not currently signed.
I remember that at one point, his entire Wikipedia page was 90% articles from me.
Wait, now I need to go back and look.
There was a bunch. Oh, Darnell Wright, that's a good one. I really liked him, but he's with the Bears, so he's dead to me now. Until he becomes a free agent.
Let me show you guys. We're on Kevin Strong's reference Wikipedia page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 19 references are Erik. Some of these are just roster moves, though.
Yeah. I wrote a whole path to the NFL thing where I got his background and talked about his growing up, and I did a whole puff piece on him.
It spans your entire transition to Pride of Detroit too. The first 5 references are Lions Wire. The last one placed Kevin Strong on IR. It's Pride of Detroit. Meanwhile,
there you go.
0 references from me. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Whoop, whoop. There we go. Did you have some Mozzie Smith love?
I thought Mozzie, I thought Mozzie had a chance to be a real good NFL player. Obviously, the Cowboys did too, taking him where they did. I don't think the Cowboys are using him correctly, but that's just me. Like they drafted a big nose tackle and asked him to play the three technique before he was ready to play the three technique and drop weight, and he hasn't adapted. They basically tried to Aleem McNeil him,
Yeah.
and not everybody can do what Aleem does.
Right.
So I was a bit anti Tyreek in the first round because there's no pass rush on tape. I will admit that. I said I didn't think I didn't think they should take him in the first round because I didn't think there was proven pass rush. Obviously, they think that the pass rush is underlying. He and the coaches have talked about the fact that Ohio State's scheme basically curbed his ability to pass rush, and so they believe it's under the surface, and that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to say I didn't see it on tape, but I hope it's there.
That's that's one of those gaps in knowledge that Brad Holmes talks about all the time, right? Like
Sure.
us here sitting here, how could we have any idea about what Tyreek Williams' exact role in that defense was? How could we know that, his defensive line coach thinks he's got some of the best intelligence of anyone who's played in that scheme, who came into whatever you call training camp for college, way overweight, but was so damn athletic that they're like, whatever.
Yeah. Like we are limited, right?
Yeah.
And I gave an evaluation based on what I saw. And so I hope that there's more.
Right. And you're not necessarily even wrong yet.
No. And if I am, great. Like I hope that there's more there but I don't know how to fix that, right? Like I don't know how to become more knowledgeable in an area in which I don't have access to knowledge. Right? That's the hard
what
part.
I would do? Become the Atlanta Hawks PR person. Because it's just straight up from there.
There it is. Yep. You got it.
Couple alerts here. Nick the Rig 100 bits says, Lions had gotten 2 comp picks when Ben Johnson left. Do you feel like fans would have warmer memories about him?
No. No.
A little bit.
Even Brad, when talking about Ben, he was like, "Yeah, he had a lot of choices. I didn't expect him to go there." And then he tried to play it off a little bit.
That quote, like I saw some outlets run with
I watched
it. It was not. I did
it.
too. It was not that bad.
It was him, like it was a little passive aggressive, but I think he tried to play it off
the
as a joke.
aggressiveness in it. No.
Oh, I did. Just a little. Just a little.
That is projecting, is what that is.
Just a little.
That's projecting.
Maybe.
But I think going to the Bears was the line that you crossed that is not going to you can't come back from.
Yeah. No. People wouldn't care how many draft picks they got for him once he went to the Bears. That was it.
Another 100 bigs from Nick the Greek, which I'm going to go into reading this one and probably regret it. So, curious fact, Brad Holmes' college girlfriend left him for a guy who wound up being picked in the 3rd round of the NFL draft. Every time he trades a 3rd round pick for a ham sandwich, he gets revenge. And I'm definitely not bringing that one up, Nick the Greek, which is probably why you only gave 1 bit for it. Yes, that Pearl Jam song is about me and not getting quoted. No, I don't. Listen, I don't care too much about me personally getting quoted because I know I'm not going to get famous because my name appears in one line in the Detroit Free Press. It's more of a It's more of a just like, hey, can you just follow basic ethics? You want to do that?
I miss what happened.
I don't even think there's nothing recent like
Oh, okay.
that happened that I know of, at least. Unless Chet, you want to tell me about something that someone is stealing from me? I haven't even said anything recently. I feel like I haven't written anything recently of worth. The Athletics last podcast had the Lions as the seventh best supporting cast in the NFC for their quarterback. Whoa. Behind the 49ers, Rams, Bucks, and Packers. That sounds like fifth to me. I found that weird. They explained because of the uncertainty in the O-line and play callers. Thoughts? I'd have to look at all of those specific teams, but I would put the skill position players up against any in the NFL.
I mean, they have multiple Pro Bowlers and multiple All Pros at the skill player, or one All Pro, I guess, at the skill player spots.
Right.
Because was Sam an All Pro? Second team All Pro his rookie year?
Maybe.
I don't think. I'm trying to remember if he was or not. But you have at least one All Pro in Amon-Ra, and then you have at least 3 Pro Bowlers. So you got lots.
Yeah. I do still have stickers, Marty. They're a little bit smaller than the original ones, but if you want them, let me know. Does that Google form even still work? I don't even know.
We're in the summer, and so everything's a list, and every list is going to make everybody mad. And so try not to get too caught up in those things.
I saw that CBS's list made the rounds for some Lions sites this week. It was they listed their top 100 players, and the Lions had 7 of them or something. And I was
Seems low.
Do I want to throw that in notes? And then I clicked through, and I'm like, oh, I see who this is by. We're not addressing it at all. And I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that.
Is it a guy who smashes computers?
Maybe? I don't know that thing about him.
Breathes heavily and smashes his keyboard when he types. There was one CBS writer that did that in training camp.
I think I know who you're talking about, but no. I will just say he is an alliterative guy. Then leave it at that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That can be a throwaway in our notes thing. It could be item number 6, but I'm not going to lead with one random guy whose opinion I don't particularly respect thinks the Lions have 7 top 100 players. If it's PFF, and I know PFF has their own problems, but at least they have a method that I can understand. Sam Laporta, Pro Bowl, All Pro, second team.
Yeah, it was All Pro. Thought so. That's a lot.
There you go.
A lot of skill player talent.
There was another good question. Is Colby's the most likely backup for when Decker retires, or move Sewell, and then does Colby replace Sewell?
My gut is that when Decker retires, there's a really good chance that Sewell moves. I put an asterisk on that, being if Manu ends up being the guy that they think he can be, because they are only playing him at left. It's weird to look at the NFL nowadays, because while left tackle is such a historically and still is a very important position, a lot of the best edge rushers in the NFL line up over the right tackle nowadays.
Right.
And so it's just as easy to leave him at right tackle and just let him take on the best guy every week and be okay with that.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're married to one path, but in an ideal world, they would find someone that could step in at right tackle, I believe. But by no means do they have to go that route. It could be Manu, it could be some other guy. Um, and with Sorsdal, he's got a lot to prove. Like I think he's legitimately on the bubble, especially if Manu's taken the steps that he has, or that the coaches say he has.
Yeah.
So we'll see
That
how that goes.
that was going to be the other question I had that I wanted to pull from chat, and it's not. I can't scroll up and get it anymore. But someone was basically asking, like, why is there this faith that Giovanni Manu might take that step to become OT3 or maybe left tackle of the future while everyone is extremely down on Colby?
Well, okay, a couple reasons. One, Manu has the biggest uh he has the biggest potential for growth because he's so low.
Right.
Right? Like so he could just really ascend very quickly. Two, they've talked him up a ton and
At the
talked
end of
about
last
his
year, yeah.
progression.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Three, Colby did not improve from year 1 to year 2, which typically happens. Now, there's also a big year 3 jump that we've seen from a lot of the Lions draft picks that Colby could very much be in line for right now. Um, but Colby's in front of us, and we haven't seen that jump. Manu's behind closed doors, so
Yeah.
and they're saying he's jumped, so we're like, maybe he did. It's like it's the you've won a boat. You could have the mystery door. It could be anything. It could even be a boat.
It's a
right?
mystery box, Eric. All right, get the reference right.
It could be a door. Um, but Manu is he's what's
He's
behind the door. It's
Yes.
the unknown, right? And so that's what people. It's easy to gravitate towards that and put hope on that. Whereas we've seen Colby, we've seen Broderick, and we haven't seen them take the steps that you would hope. Maybe
And
they will.
on
Big year for both of them.
on a very basic level, 4th-round pick versus 5th-round pick, right? Like there's a little bit more hope for the 4th-round pick. You spend essentially a 3rd-round pick on him. And it's the athletic traits, right? The athletic traits to me are really what separates Manu from even some of his teammates, right? Like he's just this. He has all those athletic pieces that it's just. I understand the temptation. I still don't love the pick. I didn't really at the time, and I don't. Still questioning it, but like I'm willing to jump on and believe because one, what we said before, like they've got a pretty darn good track record of developing some guys. They have the best offensive line coach in football, and he's also learning from 2 pretty darn good offensive tackles. So I get and like he hasn't let us down from expectations at all at this point, right? We all knew that last year was going to be a redshirt year from him. They said it before the year even started.
Mm-hmm.
Colby, on the other hand, like he was inactive in year 2. And at that point, I think the expectations would be he'd be among the top 8, top 9 offensive linemen on your team. So one has not met expectations. One has, even if they were very low expectations.
He's on the path.
He's not veered from the perceived path of his development. Why do we think Broderick Martin hasn't lived up to expectations as of right now? Same reason.
Pad level.
Inactive, and now like numbers. Okay, I see. I was reading the question wrong. Why? I thought it was asking like why are we thinking Broderick Martin hasn't lived up to expectations yet, rather than what is the reason why he hasn't lived up to expectations. Pad level is that answer, right? It's just
every coach says it.
Yeah,
every single coach that's ever interacted with him has said pad level.
Yeah. But yeah, now I mean, you want to talk about dire looking situations. You had a couple interior defenders. Oh, there's a fly on my hat.
Yeah, you've added 2 nose tackles and re-signed the 2 you had last year. And so he's got a hard road in front of him.
Yeah. With all the change over in lower levels of the coaching staff each year of Campbell's tenure, has he ever had a position coach replacement done worse than their predecessor?
Yeah.
Ooh. Who?
I would
name names. No,
God.
I mean, Jerry Bly didn't last very long.
And the DL coach that year, I'm blanking on his name as well. The coach from Penn State who.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think both those groups didn't take steps that year,
Right.
and they were expected to. And Campbell looked at those two coaches and let them go earlier than expected.
Right.
And so, I would say those two coaches were expected to do well because the coaches before them were. Geez, I'm trying to remember who the DO coach was. Was that the guy who left the old Jacksonville DC? Then
Yeah.
I don't know.
Gosh.
Yeah. So,
Todd Wash.
there you go. I thought Wash did well.
Yeah.
With them, and then he left for another position, and then, I don't think they got that expectation met in what would that have been 2022, and then, or 2023, and then that's when
Terrell.
Yeah, I know I'm blanking on it. Yeah, that's when they got Terrell, and they went after really experienced, more proven coaches at both those positions.
Right. Will Ryan ever eat Bean Boozled cereal? Good question. He was in the chat earlier. Adam. All right. I think I want to jump back into the show here. Was Plaza a special teams coach or a DB?
Now, I feel like they're thinking Aubrey Pleasant, but they got Aubrey Plaza from
Parks and Rec or whatever.
Parks and Rec, right? Yeah, and all that stuff. So I
Yeah.
think that's the.
Thank you for putting that together.
I'm connecting the dots.
Yeah,
he was a DB's coach.
Yeah. It's been, if I'm not mistaken, I think Fipp has been it the entire time during this regime, right?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
Why did Randall go to Chicago? Family seemed like the biggest reason.
He also got it wasn't a lateral move because he had another title added.
Pass game coordinator or something?
I believe, yeah, he got that. So it's more money as well.
Yeah.
So more money, position elevates him a little, gets him a little further up the rung. Family also.
Let me confirm that because I want to. Nope. Assistant head coach.
Oh, there you go. I knew it was one of the two.
Yep.
That's even better.
I mean, you take over a lot of head coaching duties. I mean,
yep. That's his goal, right?
Right.
He wants to be a head coach. So.
Yep. Plus, I mean, Ben Johnson, there's some questions about whether he can lead.
Look,
I bet Antoine Randall well.
They may need an interim coach in 2027, and so Randall L might get a shot at that.
And then take the Dan Campbell path of 10 years later, finally gets his shot after being an interim coach. All right, I'm going to jump back into the show here because I do want to get back to the doggos. Plus, I'm sweating. Plus, I need to upload this in time so that Chris can put it on the podcast. So let me kick back to the other scene and we'll get back into some questions. And welcome back to the Midweek Mailbag. Let's jump into some nicer questions, some more optimistic questions. Let's talk a little bit about training camp. We got a couple people asking about kind of the scheduling, that sort of things. We got more information on that this week in terms of when the players will report and when fans can attend. So our first question here comes from actually Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber Austin P, who says, with the first preseason game the 31st, back together weekend the 26th, which is when the fans can return, I assume players report the week before. Going with that, isn't there a required ramp-up period at the starting training camp, like no pads? Can this team even realistically be ready by the 31st with new coordinators? Also, any chance a guy like Hutchinson plays some snaps since he hasn't in so long, or is he going to be pushed in practice and bubble wrap during the preseason games? So, let's tackle these one-on-one. As it was revealed this week, yes, indeed, the Lions are going to report about a week before the back-together fan first practice. And I think they do this every year, Eric. That time, that like week before they finally show up in front of fans, that is a ramp-up period. That is where they don't have pads. That is where they are doing walkthroughs and shells and things like that.
Yeah, they have a day before even we're allowed in, where they go through conditioning testing and just stuff like that, and that counts like as day one.
Yep.
And then they're supposed to have, I believe, 4 days, unless it's changed. Last year it was, I'm sorry. So it's supposed to be a total of 5. So that conditioning testing counts as 1, and then they're supposed to do 4 more days of non-padded practice, where they start with a lower amount of time, I think like a 2-hour practice, and then they could add 15 minutes onto each of those practices. And the way their training camp is set up, they'll be done with that acclimation right about a week before the Hall of Fame game. And that would be a couple days before fans are allowed into camp. So it's possible they put pads on the day before the fans show up, or it's very possible they don the pads the day that the fans arrive, which it would be common. They've done that in the past. Fans show up, pads come on, everybody is got their energy level up. So yeah, there is an acclimation process. It does start a week before, or like almost 2 weeks before the Hall of Fame game, and then they get that 1 week to get set, and then they could have, I don't know, like 3 practices in pads if they wanted, I believe, before that Hall of Fame game is upon them. Yeah.
And if you want specific dates, so the veterans are reporting on July 19th, which is usually when they take the conditioning tests and things like that. That is about 3 days before every other team. Most teams or veterans are reporting on the 22nd. The Chargers, who the Lions are playing in the Hall of Fame game, are a little bit earlier than that, and so the Lions probably had an option to be a little bit earlier, but they chose not to. They're still getting 3 extra days that other teams aren't getting, which I kind of said, like, that's just like getting your mandatory mini camp back, essentially. You're getting those 3 days you missed in the spring. The question of, like, can this team even be ready by the 31st? Physically, the answer is yes. Mentally, the answer is they don't actually have to be, right? Like, it's a throwaway preseason game. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be none of the starters. It's going to be a trial run. Like, I don't think we need to think of this team needing to be polished, needing to be like even like 80% by that game, because to me that is almost like a step above. It's not quite a preseason game. It's not quite as controlled as joint practices, but it's somewhere in the middle. It's valuable, but they're working things out. And so physically they're going to be ready. They're going to have their ramp-up period. They're going to have at least a couple padded practices under their belt. But it's not going to be good football. It's not going to be good football.
What I think is telling is the fact that one of the attended fan practices that they've announced is the Monday following the Hall of Fame game, and they have it at 6:00 in the evening, and that is typically when they do their let's scrimmage, practice.
Yeah,
and so they're probably aiming that practice as the let's get the veterans their work then. Let's get the younger guys their work at the Hall of Fame game, and then we'll get them ready for the Falcons game, and then that rolls right in the joint practices the week after that.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say a guy like Hutchinson, even though he's coming off an injury, not going to play in the preseason. Not even gonna consider playing Hutchinson in the preseason. I think the only starting capable guys that you might see in the preseason are the rookies. Like there might be a chance you see Tate Ratledge in the preseason. That would still surprise me a little bit. But anyone else who is considered not only a starter but a really, really good starter, I would not expect a single snap out of them in the preseason. You have the 3 joint practices. You have maybe a scrimmage thrown in there as well. I don't think they're going to touch the preseason field.
Yep, I'm with you.
Dan Pask, also a question about training camp, says with training camp schedule release leaving additional questions to be answered, how many practices are needed before it's padded and how many padded would be pruned before the Hall of Fame game in your opinion? So you kind of talked about how many you need in that ramp up period. Yeah. How many padded practices would you expect them to take before the Hall of Fame game just to get physically ready?
I don't know. They'll have probably the option to do 3.
Yeah.
Maybe they do 2.
Knowing Dan Campbell, they might take all 3 though.
Yeah, that's very true.
I swear, I'm just doing it for you guys. I care about you.
Especially because of that Hall of Fame game. There's a travel day, which they won't be able to practice on.
True.
Then there'll be a day off following the game, which another travel back day. And so those 2 days, that's 2 days of practices. And then they're probably not going to be able to get back in pads until maybe 5 days later, a couple days after, like a couple days after the game anyways. And so my guess is they might do all 3 and then try and do pads again the day before that scrimmage that I was talking about, or potential scrimmage, right? That I think that, that evening practice is usually something they do something cool at. And so I expect that to be full pads and everything as well. So would they want to have 5 padded practices in that early? Maybe. If they only want 4, then I think they might just do 2 before the Hall of Fame game.
All right, let's move on. A question here from Lion for Life Detroit on Twitter asks, how many snaps would you expect Ahmad Hassanin to get this season, and what do you see as a good season sack total?
Man, that's a tough question.
Really tough question.
I honestly haven't even thought about it right now. It's really hard to project because you don't know where he fits. Right now, he's probably he's going to be behind Hutchinson, Pascal, Levi, Davenport, and Muhammad. He's going to be behind all 5 of those minimum.
Yep.
If they add another edge rusher, let's say, some guy that, maybe we haven't talked about in a while, and then he might be behind Zadarius. Madarius.
That's right.
Yeah. Zith. And so he could be behind him as well if he ends up rejoining the team. And so are you edge 6? Are you edge 7? Are you edge 5? Like, we'll have to see where he ends up. So when you're in that position, let's say he's edge 5. What are you talking, like 10, 12 max a game? Snaps max a game?
Probably
maybe even like 5, like between 5 and 12 is probably his range. So how many sacks is good? Yeah. Any.
5.
Any.
Yeah.
If you're only playing 5 snaps a game or 10 snaps a game, anything is great. Right. So
sure.
My expectations for Ahmed is very low.
Yeah.
But I also think he has just crazy potential to be a guy who gets like 20 special team sacks or tackles or something ridiculous like that. Something absurd.
And I mean, that's the key for him to even be active on game day, right? Is he's going to have to be on special teams, and I think it's entirely possible he's not active
100%.
in the first month of the season. Like I think that's something he's going to have to learn, right? Like we know that
Yes, for sure.
he I don't want to mischaracterize him as someone that doesn't know anything about football, because I don't believe that. And if you listen to Brad Holmes's interview, gosh, I can't remember if it was with Chris Long or Field Yates, whichever one he recently did. He talked a little bit about Hassanin, and he's just like, he's not a fish out of water type, but there is a learning curve there.
Sure.
And
the nice thing is, I think the new rules are kind of, they're not going to be terribly hard to learn.
Everyone's going to be learning them too, right? Like everyone is, there's only one class of NFL players on special teams who know the rules, and even some of them are changing again this year. So, and he certainly has all of the intangibles you want on a special teamer. Like if the guy's going to die for you on the field, playing special teams is
the way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's got all of that. I just don't know if it's going to be there right away. I don't know if the Lions are going to trust him right away, right? It's something that they value a lot, right? They value it more than other teams value. They have 80 special teams linebackers on their team already. And so it's going to be hard for him to find that spot right away. I have no doubt in my mind that he'll eventually do it. I have no doubt in my mind that he'll eventually play on special teams, probably a little bit on defense too. But, if you're setting an over-under for sacks for Ahmed Hassanin this year, like it should not be anything more than like 2.5 or 3.
No, 0.5.
0.5
is my over-under. Honestly, we're talking like a guy who might be edge 6 or 7. Like, I expect him to be a demon on special teams.
Yeah.
I expect him to tackle 2 guys at once.
All right.
Something Vaki did last year.
I had to mention Vaki. All right. Next question here comes from Daniel J., one of our Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers. Thank you for subscribing, Daniel. Says, typically in the NFL, safety is not a highly valued position, especially compared to edge rusher or cornerback, who are considered more essential to a typical defensive scheme. But the Lions have 2 of the best safeties in the game. My question is, does the presence of these 2 extraordinary players have implications for the Lions' defensive scheme compared to, say, other teams who do not have such talented players at safety?
So the original scheme that was implemented by Aaron Glenn highlights safeties, which is why the Lions went and got 2 elite safeties.
Yep.
If the Lions scheme didn't feature safeties as much, then they might not have put so much investment into trying to acquire 2 really good ones. And then they certainly wouldn't have re-upped Kirby. So I do think it was a scheme first, player second, but the fact that the players that you have are both elite players is why they are keeping the scheme in place that they are, right? Like they like aspects of the scheme, but they want to feature those safeties because they know they have elite ones.
Yep. And really all you have to do, like this isn't just a Lions thing, right? It goes back to New Orleans, right?
Sure.
They invested in safeties a lot. They drafted TJ Gardner-Johnson. Who's the other guy that I can't think
Marcus
of?
Williams.
Marcus Williams.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like those are guys that they spent draft capital on. They spent resources on. They valued. I know CJ Gardner-Johnson was a 4th round pick. Marcus Williams was 2nd. But they
drafted a lot of like 2nd to 4th round safeties. Like they had guys that were always in that in fighting for depth spots. It's certainly a feature of the scheme, but Daniel's right. It's something that a lot of the NFL doesn't feature anymore because they go to these 2 high shells.
Right.
A lot of defenses are using this Fangio approach, right? Where they run these 2 high shells, they do the umbrella, try and keep things in front of them. And when you do that, you just need guys that can kind of roam around. You don't need these elite safeties that can do multiple things. But there are teams.
It's changing.
There are teams and teams that have, your branches and your Minka Fitzpatricks and your Derwin James is like those teams aren't just going to two highs. They're running
Yep.
multifaceted schemes that can feature these safeties. And these safeties are becoming more and more common in college, which is going to make them more, I think, common in the NFL.
Yeah.
And the way that teams are starting to run the football, you're going to need safeties like this in order. So the Lions, I think, are very much ahead of the curve in this. But how they got to this point is because they wanted good ones and they found good ones, and it's just the way their scheme is, and it's why I don't really see them changing their scheme other than just tweaking things. They really have never really changed how their secondary has worked. It's
Right.
always been tweaks up front. So
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this on the POD cast when we were talking about PFF's rankings and how they had Kirby 6th and Branch 5th, and everyone was all up in arms, and maybe rightfully so a little bit, but like, look at the guys that are above him. Kyle Hamilton, Xavier McKinney, Jesse Bates, Antoine Winfield. Like, I feel like teams are starting to really, like, I understand, yes, when you look at salary, that position has not been rewarded in the past. I think it's changing.
Sure.
Like I said, I think, like you said, I think the Lions are a little bit ahead of the curve there because there are elite guys there. Kyle Hamilton is an elite player and that can do a lot of things, much like Branch does. And we see guys like that getting drafted higher and higher each year too. And so I just like, it's one of those fuzzy feelings again where it's just like, man, I was behind on the running back curve. I was behind on the safety curve. I was valuing all these positions based on what things are right now. I was not looking ahead. Seems like the Lions might have been looking ahead.
right, and they focus so much on the running game, and that's really, I think, the direction that the NFL is headed.
Yeah.
More emphasis up on the offensive running game and then stopping the run as well. There's still offense is still king, and so you're going to want to throw the ball, and you're going to have teams like the Packers who have 6 wide receiver twos now, or is it wide? I forget which they have. If it's wide receiver ones or twos, I forget what they have. But but the run game is still going to be paramount in Detroit.
Yep. All right, we'll close out on this question. RCJ1S asks, any intel or thoughts on why Hutchinson hasn't been extended yet? The Lions got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sewell done around this same time. Is it more a Hutch issue or a Lions issue? Should probably preface this by saying anything we're about to say is speculation on our part.
Sure.
We don't have inside sources necessarily on this, or probably wouldn't be comfortable talking about them unless we were like truly reporting on them. The one thing I will say is there was a quote, and I think it was during Brad Holmes's pre-draft press conference where he reiterated the need for both sides to be in on it, right? Like, this is a two-way street, which I would think could be interpreted as, hey, Hutchinson's side needs to move this along a little bit. Of course, it benefits him to say that publicly, right? Like, you're the general manager. You want to get a deal done. It's very clear that the Lions are motivated to get a deal done. We heard Rod Wood go in front of some luncheon and say, like, don't you worry, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be here long term.
Yeah, I tend to think it's more about the position. Edge rusher being a complicated position to create a contract for, especially when it's a guy playing in at such a high level. I'm sure the
Coming off an injury,
yep, factors into it. And then Hutch is also he's a marketing guy, right? We talked about this the last time we were here. He's going to want it to be on his terms when he wants it to happen, and I'm not sweating it. They do injuries, or I'm sorry, they do contract, renegotiations at all points of the year.
Right.
So
yeah, they got to leave done in the middle of the season, right?
David Montgomery in the middle of the season too, right? And so it's I don't think the timing is anything reflective of it being like anyone's fault.
Yeah. And I also want to reiterate, like, I think Lions fans got spoiled last offseason. Like, oh, we got Amon-Ra done before the big wide receivers got extended. We got Jared Goff done before some of the wide receivers. We got Panay done before some of the tackles. I understand the optics of that look good, but I think when you're talking about like how much that actually saves you, it's not that much. You're talking about like $1 million a year. Oh, if Micah Parsons gets $35 million a year, Aiden Hutchinson gets $36 million a year. Oh, you lost out on $1 million a year. It's nothing. It's nothing, Erik. Right? Like, I think that whole thing is overblown a little bit. Like, I love the idea of getting it done early and things not bleeding into training camp, and not every single time we see Aiden Hutchinson we have to ask him about it. And the Lions have generally done good at avoiding those sort of situations. But when it comes to like, oh, we're actually about to, we're gonna have to pay more because this guy got his deal in, it's not gonna cost him that much more.
No, it'll be a very, very low percentage of the cap when it's all said and done. It's just a posturing thing.
Right. All right. I think we'll close things up there. If you want more of this, make sure you listen both on YouTube and Twitch. We got some extra questions we do in between segments. Coming up this week, no more POD casts, but we will have a first bite for Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers. Finally got a Georgia writer that we're going to talk to about the last 2 draft picks, and I think we have a separate guest we have to talk about Tate Ratledge in the very near future. So if you want those podcasts, be a subscriber over on Pride of Detroit Direct. Go to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe to become a subscriber. But until next time, that's Erik over there. I'm Jeremy. Thank you all for listening. It's Chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
What in the fake account is happening on YouTube right now? Let me this guy.
I had to work the mute button.
I could tell you were.
They found they found a Christmas dog, one of those dogs where you push the button and it like rotates its whole body and it plays like a really fast version of Jingle Bells or something like that, and they think it's hilarious. I don't know. It should have been put away, which means they probably were doing something they weren't supposed to. But they were playing it like literally on the other side of the wall, and I was trying to get them to stop.
Weird.
Children, no respect for the game.
Oh, not fake, huh? Oops. Well, I just suspended you for 24 hours then. There's just an alert on YouTube saying they're going to take down our video because we're doing something illegal.
What's that?
I don't know. Never even said. And now to avoid account suspension. You scared me. Uh-oh. Because that's how that happens.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly if there's an official account that's about to suspend our account, their response is definitely going to be, yo, I'm not fake.
It's been some interesting
shenanigans.
Commenters. Yeah. Interesting shenanigans tonight.
Let me get to a few alerts, and then I'm sorry, I'm going to have to jump off a little earlier than we normally go, because I think we normally go 2 hours. We're coming up on an hour and a half here. El Gato Diablo, the Devil Cats, 29 months, as in Brad we trust. Constrictor, 47 months subscribed to the channel. Sundog, 30 months subscribed to the channel on Twitch, says, what's each of your favorite piece of Lions gear that you own? Show and tell for my 30 month. Ooh.
Oh boy.
Lions memorabilia.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple things. I'm looking around the room. I have something signed by Glover Quinn. I don't really know where it is. Oh, it's over there. which is pretty cool. Also, because this is going to make you look like the good person that you are. You actually got me this. I don't know if you know what I'm about to show. I wrote a magazine piece on Reggie Ragland in Scene magazine. I don't know what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago probably. And you framed it and gave it to me, which is very nice.
I'm glad you like it.
I would not like to read that piece ever again because if I recall correctly, it's Reggie Ragland saying that the Lions have like the Super Bowl kind of attitude that he's seen before.
Yes.
But it's cool. It's the one thing that hangs by my desk.
I have a couple of those that my mother-in-law has made for me, actually, a couple of little framed things like that too.
Yeah.
They're very nice. Mine are at my desk too. Mine are over on the adjacent wall here. My USA, first time I got published in USA Today, and then
Like the actual print, right?
Yeah, the print version.
That's cool.
And then when I was Our Magazine's, I won an award with Our Magazine during COVID. So that one was funny, and that one's up there too.
That's cool. You have a lot of like merch though. Like what's your favorite merch?
That's a good question. Like, I have a lot of I don't know. I can't really say like, oh, I like my sweatshirt, because it's not like, that's not memorabilia. That's just like something
That
that
still kind of counts. If there's like
Yeah.
a nice hat that you like or a good sweatshirt, I think that counts.
I like
Or a
my
jersey.
I like my one of my favorites is my the cure for the cancer one, the Intercept Cancer
Yeah.
sweatshirt.
That is
that
a
I
really
got.
nice hoodie you have.
It's expensive, but worth it.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, and money goes to great cause too, and all that. So, but like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's a really cool one. So,
Over my TV, I have a like a panorama of I think the first game at Ford Field. That's pretty nice. That I enjoy. I don't really have that much else
he
that's
did say
quirky.
gear.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
He said gear.
Gear. I have the sweatshirt. The sweatshirt then. I'll go with that for sure.
If we're talking just clothing, mine is definitely Matthew Stafford's Super Bowl jersey with the Rams. Does that count?
Oh man. Oh man.
Detroit Rams, baby. Nah. What jersey would I wear if I just went out right now? Because I don't think I have a single current player's jersey.
I have a jersey that has
The machine on the back?
the number one that says the machine that came courtesy of our good friend Nick.
That's true. What does mine say? I don't even remember what mine says. Is it wet blanket? It definitely says wet
Is it wet
on the back.
blanket?
Yeah. I don't know if I have my knockoff Matthew Stafford jersey, which my friend calls Stanford jersey. It does say Stafford, to be clear.
If you were to buy a jersey, I don't even know if this is allowed. Even if, for you,
Yeah,
even
do I want to put it out there? I don't think I want to put it out there.
I don't even know if that's allowed.
I have a very clear answer, but I'm not going to say it.
Oh, I know which one I'd get.
I
It's not
think
close.
I think mine might be the same as yours.
Oh, well, then don't say it because I don't want him to get messed up. I would get Sewell because he's never leaving,
Right.
ever. He's the best offensive lineman in the NFL.
Fuck.
He's going to be he's going to be the best offensive lineman in the NFL for a long time, and he's never going to leave Detroit. They're going to pay him in islands, and he will retire a Lion, in my opinion. So, I yeah, I'd buy a Sewell jersey and consider
Why haven't
framing
you?
it 15 years from now when no, I'm saying like,
Yeah,
if
just
I
wait for
was
his Super Bowl
if I was
jersey.
someone. Oh yeah. It looks sweet. You buy you could buy all kinds of, there's a
Yeah.
lot of guys you could invest in and feel pretty confident.
Are you someone that likes autographed gear? Do you have autographed stuff?
Not really. I do like it, but I don't really have a lot of it.
It's awkward now, right? Like we
Certainly, like I'm
we're
not
not
gonna.
we're not gonna ever
I
ask anyone to sign anything unless it's for our Movember giveaway stuff.
I thought about I thought about okay. I think I've told the story before, but I had the only non-Lions jersey I've ever owned was a Antoine Randall L. Pittsburgh Steelers jersey, and that was
You
and
missed your chance.
I thought about having him sign that, but it would have been very awkward.
Yes.
Yes, so
Not really allowed to do that sort of stuff.
yeah, so I mean, I thought about like saying, hey, can you do this for our Schlitt charity drive or
And then just lied and kept
yes,
it.
yes, 100%.
Oops, I'm on the wrong scene.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's like I'm not going to be the guy who wears a Vaki jersey into training camp and has him sign it.
I mean, you'd love to, but you're not going to do it.
Yeah, I'll have him sign something when he comes over to the house or something.
He'll sign something when you're speaking at his Hall of Fame commencement.
Right. Yeah. When I do his inductive, when I induct him into the hall.
That's right.
Certainly.
You always believed in me, Eric. Frank's still not retired. I'm just going to continue to ride that. Paperwork hasn't been filed. He's not retired.
I think they're doing it. They're gonna do it so that he can make a speech to us in camp.
Probably.
Like I think, yeah, it's just gonna be one.
Just let me. I'm always so much the by the books guy. Like, this isn't gonna happen. You guys are being too ridiculous. Let me just knowingly be like, you know what? La 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 la. I can't hear you. He's not retired. Not on the transaction wire.
Sure.
Let me have this. You toured Allen Park yesterday and didn't see his locker. David, why you got to do that to me?
That's
Also, I'm also extremely jealous that you've seen the new locker room before I have. I want to see the new locker room.
I know. It looks kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder.
I think Terrion was taking like a TikTok there, and I think they had like a Roomba in there or something.
I wonder if they'll let us take a peek at it.
I kind of thought they were going to during the OTAs.
Yep.
Maybe we won't get them till what? God, I don't even know. Regular season?
Week 1.
You took a photo in Hendon Hooker's chair. Just so you could have Hooker above your head? Is that why? David? Is that why, David? That is cool, though. That's one of the season ticket holder perks, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. They got a whole bunch of those fun perks.
That is cool. What were the other choices, David? I know that's something that like they didn't used to do any of those sort of stuff.
I know the one I would pick is
Spielman,
the film study with Chris Spielman.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. I have no idea how in depth he goes or anything, but
I usually do the tunnel. Yeah, Rock,
Oh.
we're just closing up, Rock. But thanks for stopping by. Oh, there was you. Who's the guy on YouTube? He said here we go. Darren Raditz. If Matt Patricia didn't soil Matt Stafford's love of football in Detroit and stayed on during the Dan Campbell era, do you think they would have a Super Bowl by now?
With Matt Patricia?
No. If
Okay.
if Stafford would have stuck around, essentially, for the Dan Campbell era.
It's really hard to say because
Because of all the draft capital they got in the trade?
correct. Yeah. Because to look at what they acquired with what they got in return, it's startling how much the draft capital turned into like foundational pieces.
Right.
You would have got Sewell, you would have got Hutch just on your own. Those were your own picks. But like the Iffy move, the move up for JMO, like there's all
Right.
and then I believe there's the carryover into they would have been the Jahmyr Gibbs pick because the Lions were the 18, right?
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of like you're talking about, and then that Gibbs pick also helped them get Branch. So like you're talking about like JMO, Branch, Gibbs, Pascal, Iffy, like all like it's a lot of those
crazy.
guys. Yeah, like we'd have to go back through them, and it's complicated because they were traded and all that stuff.
Right. And they
But
still
yeah.
would have drafted certain guys in those
Yeah,
places, right? Like
for sure, for sure. But would that have gotten them closer? Oh, geez, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still of the belief that Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback than Jared Goff. So if it was just a matter of like,
I think most people still would agree with that.
so yeah, if it was as simple as everything else equal, Matthew Stafford's a quarterback instead of Jared Goff, would the Lions have won a Super Bowl by now? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stafford certainly would have fits the Dan Campbell style.
Grittiness. And yeah.
Gunslinger, willing to gamble,
Yeah.
right? At the same time, they've adopted or adapted themselves to play to Goff's strengths, and Goff has adapted himself to play into what the Lions want and need, and so there's been a really nice marriage that's come out of it. Stafford was just a unique cat in his arm strength, in his ability to make really difficult throws. He was a gamer, but at the same time, I think Goff's more accurate. He's I think accuracy is like one of his best traits.
Sure. Particularly intermediate range.
Right. Which they've leaned into by getting Amon-Ra and Gibbs and and Laporta, right?
Yep.
And so I think Goff suits this team very, very well.
Yeah.
So it's there you go. See? I'm not the only one that thinks that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if the answer is the trade doesn't happen, you don't get the draft capital.
Yeah.
No, I don't think the Lions would win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, it'd be a lot harder.
If it's just put Matthew Stafford on the team as it currently is, I think they would have maybe made a Super Bowl by now.
There's also an age difference, right?
Sure.
And so Stafford is going to be
35?
No, he's 37.
Oh my God.
He's going to be 38 right around the Super Bowl. He's a February birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So like
5 years, 6 years. How old is
okay,
Goff?
so now
30,
you're
31?
33, I think, right?
So
now you're
Did I just
33 or
sleep for
34.
2 years? What happened?
Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
No, Goff is only 30.
Oh, jeez. All right, cool. So you're talking about a 7-year
gonna turn
difference in
31.
age. I don't know why I thought it was. He
My
was
Google
older.
form does still work to whoever just.
So for this team, if you had Stafford, how you
How
have
long
a
is that
shorter
window? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, right?
Yep.
If you wouldn't have won it up until now, now are you feeling the pressure of that being a short window? And
Right.
so it's a weird thing because like Stafford is arguably the best quarterback to play for this team, yet getting rid of him might have been the thing that gets them over the hump, which is a weird thing to say.
Yep. I got it, Madi Tuati. I will try to get that to you this weekend. Which player signs an extension or deal first? Hutch, JMO, or Zadarius Smith?
Well, I don't know if they're going to be trying to do deals with Hutch or JMO right now because they're kind of in that off-season
Kick your feet up
mode.
Yeah.
Yep. At the same time, I don't expect Zadarius to sign for a couple of weeks into training camp if he does. Could they have a Hutch or JMO deal before then? Maybe. It's a good question.
My complete shot in the dark guess:
Yeah.
Alex Anzalone before all of them. Just add a year. You don't seem to agree.
The thing with Alex is,
Oh, you're about to have a take here. I like this. What?
the thing with Alex is, while 30 years old for a quarterback isn't terrible,
Uh-huh.
it's usually a page turner for linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, all other players. He's going to be 31 in like the first month of the season.
Yeah.
So giving him an extension for when he's going to be 32, when you
Just
have
a
all
year.
these other things,
Just a year.
it's
Add as
I
many
know.
void years. I mean, look, how old is Fred Warner?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, not Fred Warner. Fred Warner's only 28. I get this guy and Fred Warner mixed up all the time. I've said it
You're
before.
thinking Bobby Wagner.
I'm thinking Bobby Wagner. He's like 36,
Yeah,
isn't he? I said
He's like
before.
40, I think.
He's about to turn 35.
And we've been, yeah.
He's just a new Bobby Wagner. Everyone's saying it. Everyone's saying Alex Anzalone is the next Bobby Wagner. Just turn on SportsCenter. They'll say it in the next like 2 minutes. I'm going to make that a thing. All right. Anything else left to say before we get out of here?
No.
Do you want to apologize to Alex Anzalone? Just look right in the
No.
camera and apologize to him for calling him old?
Look. I told you the grandpa story the other day, so I don't need to be. I'm not old shaming anybody.
I'm not ageist. There's no way I could be ageist. I'm old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one with Alex.
Yeah.
Because I understand where he's coming from, and I look, players get your money, but yeah, I wonder what the team. I wonder how they're going to handle that.
They love him. They love him.
Of course. Which is if
Which is why
Derek
I'm right.
Barnes didn't sign a ridiculous contract, I would be like,
It's
yep,
not even that
no
ridiculous.
problem.
It was like $8 million a year.
But $8 million a year for a part-time player, it doesn't say he's a part-time player. It says this is a full-time player. Because that's what Anzalone is making right now, about $8 million a year, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
I guess you could do it with Jack, but that 2026 year, Jack is going to be what, fifth-year option, and then you have two $8 million a year other linebackers.
Well,
Like,
then you do the thing they've done with everyone else with the 5th-year option. Like use that to
Cut
make
Derek
an
Barnes.
extension. No,
oh,
no.
okay,
Use that to make an extension. Make year one of that be very small.
Yeah.
You're fine. Inside the Den in the past
to.
has come out in
You'd
July.
have to.
Just wait. It's coming. I have no inside source of when it comes, but it usually comes in July. So
we'll talk to Derek when we see him again in July.
If we can,
and he'll be like, I'm trying.
I mean, he's kind of big time now. Like, you see, they pulled in 6 Emmys.
Oh yeah.
So we'll have to like try to get behind his armada of Emmys over the past few years. All right, we're gonna get out of here. I'm sweating. I need to go check in on the doggos, and that's it. We will see you guys probably Monday for the POD cast next. So have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you guys soon.